Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast for all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time. I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted, to address whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life that you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. We are here because God is concerned about that which concerns you. So you may call every day now on the T-Mobile caller text line at 267-992-1424. You can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families, dating and relationships, whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind. God is always concerned about that which concerns you. So we are here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock where the water collects in a natural artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is Earth's finest water. And for those of you who continue to give on the Give segment of our app at New Life Delaware, all of our listeners and viewers who continue to support the broadcast and have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast, we thank you for your support and your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here to address whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life that you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. So let me say to all of our listeners and viewers, I also want to announce we are going to be moving forward with expanding the platform for our broadcast. We continue to do this so that as we move forward, we can have additional offerings for our viewing audience. We are live, of course, on our app and on our website, and we are Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and we want to make certain that as we begin doing additional interviews that we have a platform to provide for both for those who are viewing and for those who are being interviewed. So I want you to continue to tune in, encourage your family, your friends, your co-workers and colleagues. We have, pardon me, we've had a significant increase in viewership over the 3 years that we've been on the air. And so we just want to continue to expand with all of the platforms that might be of interest to anyone and continue to grow our broadcast in a way that it will continue to impact the quality of the lives of our listeners and viewers. And I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you are afraid that your company is going to be purchased and that you will be downsized, and you want to know what can you do to prepare for this. So let me first respond to the first aspect of your communication, and that is to say this. Fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So you have a sound mind, but you have to recognize the power that you have. So I'm going to begin by saying this. First of all, I want to give you an analogy. I know someone who for the last 12 years has been telling me that their company was going to go out of business. They've been telling me that for 12 years and constantly saying that they needed to do something else. They needed to look at changing profession. They needed a lot of different scenarios. And the one thing that I kept saying to him was, your company isn't going out of business. It has been around for a very long time. There may be some changes in your company, but your company's been around for a very long time. It's a stable company. That doesn't mean that it can't be purchased by a private equity group. It can't be purchased by another publicly traded company. But the reality is that your company is still a vibrant company. That's what I said to him. Starting 12 years ago. Today, that company is still there. What happened in the process is that, and he eventually did leave the company. But the problem with that is that when you start listening to others, instead of watching, for example, CNBC, instead of watching, Bloomberg News, in other words, following the business trends and understanding what's going on in the marketplace, understanding what's going on with mergers and acquisitions, if you're not observing those things that will help you to understand where you are, where your company is today, then you're missing something, because you're missing out on the real information. Remember, I said false evidence appearing real. So to some of your coworkers, and maybe even a few people that you know, you can have these conversations, and if they're not well informed, they're not going to be able to give you good information. They're either going to agree with you, or they're going to sit idly by and let you shape your narrative. So the problem with that is that there's no truth in that. It's only false evidence appearing to be real. So you have to say to yourself, where am I getting my information from, and why am I afraid of what might happen? And then to respond to the other part of your communication, you ask, what can you do to prepare yourself? Well, currently, today, what you can do is you can begin the process of looking at other opportunities in the event that your company were to be purchased and downsized, and you were to be downsized. You can even begin sending out your resume now. You remember, it's always easier to find a job when you have a job. And the reality is that it eliminates some of the onboarding process for some companies if you're already employed. The truth is this: you have options. Your options are, you can work and focus on what you're doing right now while you are researching other companies and sending out your resume in the event that something were to occur. You can even interview. You have personal days. You have vacation days. You can schedule interviews according to your days that are available to you for personal days or for vacation days. You can interview, even in the process. But you also have time in. So don't make any rash decisions unless you get an offer that you cannot refuse. You have to recognize that you have invested time in your company. And if your company does not become sold and you are downsized, then you don't really have an issue. You can prepare yourself in advance. However, I'm saying that to you knowing that God has shown me in that secret place of your life, you're not going to be downsized. You're not, part of the problem becomes, and I need to say this for everyone, part of the problem becomes when we get distracted with the thoughts of failure, we then begin to sabotage subconsciously our current position because we're afraid of what might happen. So we start making mistakes. We start doing things that are not conducive for success. We've got to be better than that, and we've got to be bigger than that. And what I mean by that is we have to have a bigger mind that says, if I'm performing at the highest level possible, unless there is something in the company that changes drastically, I'm going to be the last one out the door. Now, I know sometimes there's exceptions to every rule. Sometimes last one in, first one out. I understand that completely. However, it makes it more difficult for a company to let you go, to downsize you if you're performing at a high level. It makes it more difficult. I'm not saying it's not possible. It makes it more difficult because they understand the value the asset added value that you are to the company. Stop talking to people who are afraid of success and creating fear for you that it would undermine your success. Do your own thing and do it well. You know, I often encourage people every single day. We want to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. We want to become a better version of ourselves, but we want to become the best version that we can possibly become. So every day we should be looking for ways to improve what we're doing. We should be looking for methods to improve that, to be more efficient, to be more effective, to be more efficient, to be an asset added value to whatever company, whatever business, whatever platform we're working. We should be working every day to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. Because that's the only way we're going to experience the fullness of God. And I know everyone hears me often talk about the fullness of God. God has all things purposed for our lives that are good, that can be manifested. All things. Right in his hand. He said, before he releases them, we have to be ready to receive them. So what are we going to do when we receive the blessings, the benefits and the blessings of God? That's why we have to prepare ourselves to experience the fullness of God, and then, of course, work every day to maximize the fullness of God in all of our lives. Body, mind, and spirit. The fullness of God. We really have to work at this. That's why the Bible told us, listen, that's why the Bible tells us, work out your salvation. It's one thing to be saved, but we've got to work it out. We've got to work to live our lives to bring God his glory, and to do that, we have to succeed. We have to keep working to succeed every single day. If we do good things will happen. If we work hard to create opportunities will happen. If we work hard, listen to this, to develop our potential, opportunities will occur. But we have to prepare ourselves for every level of success. And what I want you to encourage you to do today, our listener and viewer who sent in this communication, is eliminate the fear of what might happen and focus on where you are right now. Focus on getting to the next level of where you are right now. And that doesn't necessarily require a promotion. That's a whole different topic, but I want to touch on that just for one moment. You know, going to the next level doesn't necessarily require a promotion. It just means it implies becoming a better version of ourselves. Being better at what we're doing. That too can be the next level. And that has to be the next level before you can get to the next level of promotion or elevation. These are the things that we have to do every single day, the little things that make a difference in our lives and make our lives so much bigger, so much greater. Eliminate the fear and focus on where you are right now. Those little things that you can do, researching other companies that are your competitors of your own company, and sending out your resume, or even if they're not a competitor of your company, if you decide you want to change career paths, but make certain if you make that decision that that's what God has appointed for your life. Don't just change. I'm not going to be a neurosurgeon tomorrow. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to wake up and decide that I'm going to go practice medicine, because that's not what God has appointed for my life. But you've got to know the appointment, and you've got to know the purpose so that you can meet the appointment, so that you can make the appointment. Stop being afraid and focus on where you are right now, and focus on going to the next level where you are right now, whether that is the next level of being the best version of yourself, or the next level of promotion. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line. We will move you over into our queue so that you can become a T-Mobile customer and experience T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees will be included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your parents have issues with your parenting. You and your spouse have decided to oppose gender conformity, and your parents have issues with that. And you want to know, how do you get them to understand that you do not want your boys to live under the society norms? Okay, so this is a very interesting communication from the standpoint that you want your parents to understand the way you want to raise your children in your household. However, you're resisting their communication with you about teaching their grandsons societal norms. There's a couple of problems going on here, and I want to say, you know, sometimes we have to really get back to the basics. Here's the truth of the matter. So your parents are of the generation that I'm in. They're from the same generation that I'm in. They're in their 60s, and you are half their age. Okay. So here's the truth of the matter. They have lived all their lives with societal norms. Now, your parents are in their late 60s. So they've lived all of their lives with their societal norms, as I've lived my life with societal norms. We have been taught to live certain ways, that men do the heavy lifting, and the women of the family function in one capacity, the men in the households function in a different capacity. Now, that doesn't imply that we cannot interchange some things. For example, if there's a man who loves to cook, then that's fine. That's also a profession for some men. I have a nephew who's a chef. So that's a profession for some men. But we've been taught societal norms. And in some things we need to get back to the basics. I'm not suggesting that a man can't cook. I'm not suggesting that a man can't sew. I can sew a button on my shirt. You know, we had home economics in school. But the reality is, your parents at 68 and 67 have been, they're a year apart. They've been living these societal norms all of their lives. And now you're telling them that your sons, who they want to be raised as gentlemen, according to societal norms, that you don't want your sons conforming to that. You want them to be able to live freely and without restriction. Okay. And that's your right as a parent. I'm not going to try and tell any parent how to raise their child. The Bible tells us how to raise a child. But I'm not going to tell any parent how you're going to raise your children in your household. At the same time, when your parents have your grandsons with them, they're going to teach your grandsons what they know, and that is the societal norms. And so you have to decide how much time you want your sons to spend with their grandparents, because that's really the only issue here. Your your grandparents are never going to teach them that it's okay for a young lady, if they go out on a date, for the young lady to pay the check or to pay half of the check unless it's his birthday. They're never going to teach them that because societal norm does not teach us that. And that's the era that they come from. We were taught to be gentlemen. We were taught that ladies should be ladies and gentlemen should be gentlemen. That doesn't imply that you can't enjoy being a man or a woman. It just implies that there are societal norms. And you have to decide if that's a problem for you and if that's a problem for you in the way you want to raise your sons, then having that conversation with your parents is going to be a exercise in futility. So let me say this, because this is real important. I think in our society today, one of the issues has become, and we can address the destruction of our society at another time, but one of the things that we've had happen is that we have a lot of things being done today that are outside of normal societal expectations. I'll use that approach. And we think it's okay to do whatever we want to do. Here's the problem with that. We start doing things the wrong way. You might say, well, why does your generation think it's the right way to do things? I'm not saying it's just our generation. It's been centuries of doing things with societal norms. The problem is we've gotten away from the basics and we've shifted to a place where we can do whatever we want to do as long as it's within the law. But the problem with that is what's the detriment? What's the outcome? What are the consequences? And we don't think about those things because we want to do what we want to do the way we want to do it. The problem is that we do it the wrong way for so long, we then begin to think it's the right way to do things. We've got to really get back to the basics. And the basics of the Bible is going to really provide us with a better quality of life because we'll live in a better society. It's just, these are just basic norms. I've often said the Holy Bible is the handbook of living your basic instructions before leaving earth. The problem is we look at the instructions in the Bible and we want to conform those instructions to what we desire to fit our own narrative. So I'm not suggesting that any of us are perfect. But what I am saying is that we've got to get back to the basics. It's real simply, it's simply outlined for us. And often people will try to interpret the Bible to fit their narrative. Now, there are some things that have to be revealed to us through the scripture. But when we're looking at the scripture through our own narrative, then we begin to change the interpretation to fit our own narrative. Let me do that again. We also change the revelation to an interpretation that fits our own narrative. So there's a lot of moving parts to this thing called life. You have one way of raising your sons. Your parents have their own way of grandparenting their grandsons. And the only way that you're going to resolve that issue is by deciding exactly how much time you want your sons to spend with your grandchildren. with their grandparents. The problem with that is if you make the wrong decision, your sons are going to suffer because they're not going to spend enough time with their grandparents. And the one thing we should not want for our children is for them to suffer. Suffer the consequences of our own actions, our own decisions, our own narrative, our own perspective. All of those things are going to lead to destruction for our society. We've got to get back to the basics. And the basics are real simple. It's all written out for us. You know, if we follow the scriptures, we'll have a better quality of life. We'll make some mistakes along the way. We all will. There's a passage in the Bible that tells us that we all sin and fall short of the glory of God, meaning we're all going to make mistakes. That's the truth of the matter. We want to limit the mistakes that we make. We want to limit our errors in life. We want to reduce our liabilities. We want to make certain that we're profitable, that our life is profitable, that it will bring God His glory. God doesn't have to change, and neither does His word. We have to change, and we have to change in a way that we line up with the word of God and the will of God, so that we can find the way of God, which leads to the path of success and the fullness of God. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, check their store hours, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything that a man could possibly need. They have shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. If you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. And right now, if you order from Charles Tyrwhitt, you will receive, if you order shirts, you will receive 4 high-quality cotton shirts from Charles Tyrwhitt for $199. And right now, they also have cashmere sweaters that you can order 2 for $179.50. Those are high-quality cashmere sweaters at Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. And the White Company, located in London, the UK. They also have a store on 5th Avenue in New York. If you're in New York, check their store hours. Stop in at the retail store. They have everything that you could possibly need. Home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. If you're not in New York, you can order from the White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers. And you indicated that you have been distant from your family and friends that have not added asset value to your life, to quality of your life. However, spending time with those who are positive people has been difficult. Positive family members and friends has been difficult during the pandemic. Of course it has been. And so don't struggle with that. Don't go back to Egypt. Listen, I know you repeated my words to me, so I know you've been watching the broadcast. When I said long ago, if people are not an asset added value to your life, if they are not adding value to your life, then you need to love them from afar. You don't need to keep them in your space being negative and draining your energy. So I know that where that came from. So that's a positive thing, and thank you for continuing to tune in to 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. Okay, so yes, spending time with people right now during this pandemic has been extremely difficult for all of us. But this too shall pass. It's only this year. And you're having difficulty making new friends during a pandemic. Of course you are. Don't let that stress you out. When this is over, listen, don't go back to Egypt, spending time with people and with family members and friends who keep you bound, who strip you naked, make you anxious, and when I say strip you naked, meaning strip you of all your energy, and keep you bound with anxiety and at some moments depressed, with depression. suffering from depression. Listen, don't go back to Egypt. Stay right where you are. When this ends, you'll be able to make new friends. You'll meet new people. The family members who are positive people